the Light Institute and the Sanctuary of Light welcome each and all of you to this time of knowings and invite you to bring forward the questions of your hearts so that our conversations can uplift all the other beings who have the same questions and conversations. So who would like to begin?
How can we release those thoughts and feelings that stop or limit conscience and consciousness? In many ways we are what we're thinking.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, my higher self taught me something way back that still echoes through me, and that is, whatever you resist, that's what you get. So the question is not to block those thoughts and feelings, but to gaze upon them from a bigger perspective, from a sense of self that's bigger than the feelings. Sometimes we feel rejected, or we feel small, or we feel helpless, or we feel angry, or the thoughts are, I can't do this, or they won't help me, or all of those conversations that go on. And so really the way through that is not to pretend that they're not there, but to rather turn around and face them, but to face them from up above. When we can lift ourselves up and look down at a situation or a thought form, it takes on a different quality to us. And even that sense of I'm looking down at this problem, or I'm looking down at this thought form, is a way of helping the consciousness to realize this is not you. This is just something that the emotional mind is repeating. We have emotional mind, just as we do our intellectual minds, our conscious or our outer minds, let's say. And so the emotional mind doesn't think rationally, it thinks emotionally. So the way it does that is that it does it by association. What does that smell, or that thought form, or that pain feel like that I can relate to, that I associate to? Which could be a conversation you had 20 years ago with someone, or when you were a child, or yesterday, and so that it begins to superimpose other experiences and the outcomes of those thought forms and feelings upon the present. And that's what takes us out of a recognition that there is nothing that comes to us that doesn't belong to us in some way. And what doesn't belong to us has no power over us. And so we really do want to, as you say, lift into consciousness, not just thought, but conscious thought. There's a difference. Consciousness is holographic. It sees here is the thought, or here is the anchor, here is the source, but it sees it in all of its connections and all of its aspects. And that's what frees us, so that we then use the power of our mind to focus our attention on something and release it. So for example, one of the exercises in consciousness that my higher self has given to me is, where am I holding that thought? Where am I holding in my body that anger, or that conclusion? Because thoughts are not just mental. They have energy, as you were saying. They're energetic. So when we can locate, oh, I'm holding that in my heart, or I'm holding that in my forefingers, and we go into that place, what frequency of light does this need to be released? We are giving permission to shift. And at the speed of light, the anger, the negativity can dissolve away. The Chinese have said for thousands of years, blood follows qi, or energy. Energy, qi, follows blood. And so when you move something, then it changes its power over you. So if it's a really negative thought form that's entrapped you, and you just find yourself continually going, I should have said this, and that's because of the other, then my higher self would say, get up and open your arms and spin around to the right. And spin around until you get dizzy. And spinning causes the two lobes of the brain to begin to pulse and sync. When they do that, it drops the consciousness into alpha and theta levels. And so you move into a meditative state. When we move into a meditative state, our awareness expands. And so then we see, I'm not that, or that's an old thought, or that's not even mine. One of the great teachings of my higher self is that most of what you think isn't yours. And that Nijoni, and I think that in the next year or so we may be reinstigating Nijoni School for Global Consciousness. But one of the things that we would always do at the beginning of our courses is to spend about a week just writing down all of our thoughts, just to show you how many thoughts you have that have really nothing to do with you. They're just a tape you're playing because you read it in a book, you saw it on TV, it's in the news, someone said it to you, it's a song you remember, all of this stuff that blocks us from our deep knowing. And our deep knowing will always be, there's a way out. Our deep knowing will always be, take that path. And you will find yourself rising above it. And so that you see that there's more than one answer, there's more than one truth, there's more than one solution, and your own inner voice can show you which of those supports you in your life. So you don't have to feel that your mind, your emotional mind, is controlling you. I would say for most people that our emotional body is a possessive entity. It's a negative possessive energy that just keeps repeating and repeating because it's astral, it has no time and space. And so and this is how I actually got into this work. I found that the only thing that shifted the emotional body was when we connected to the higher self, when we connected to a sense of the self that is bigger than our daily lives. Then all of a sudden the emotional mind, the emotional body could lift up. It could perceive in a positive way. It could perceive potential rather than disaster. And so it is consciousness that leads us out of darkness. And you actually can wield that consciousness. Sometimes it really seems like a battle to turn our attention away from something that's just chattering and chattering and chattering. And that's why we have to go into the physical. Spinning around or dancing or swimming or anything that just blocks that conversation. But if something negative occurs to you and it feels like it blocks you, just turn around and look at it and say, is this mine? Where did you get that concept? One of the things that I've discovered in my work is that it's very important to clear our parents, even if we had a wonderful childhood, not because it's negative or for any other reason than that we chose those beings to imprint us. And so it's really important to release them and ourselves from those imprints so that we can reinvent who we are. And so when you find yourself thinking a negative thought, you might want to say, from whom comes this thought? It might be your parents, it might be your aunts and uncles, it might be your teacher from 20 years ago, it might be your priest, it might be someone else. It's theirs. You thought it was yours. And that's what I learned, is that as I worked with people, I found that the older we get, the more we become our parents, the more we begin to squeeze our consciousness. We are not inventive. We don't, when a new idea or a new possibility comes, we say, wait a minute, I have to figure out if I want to do that. Instead of saying, there's a potential, there's a possibility, let me instantly recognize how it works in my life. And so I find that a lot of people around me are becoming like that. We laugh about it here and say, don't move my cheese. Somebody wrote a book about that. Don't move my cheese. People get like that. Don't give me anything that I don't think I can handle. Don't disrupt my daily life. Well, if you don't disrupt your daily life, you will fall asleep, you will become automatic pilot, and then you will forget that you've come here with a purpose. So, don't feel that you're the victim. And also, I think it's important to have a smile about our negative thoughts too, you know. We are not our emotional bodies. And if something creeps in and chatters at you, once you practice these exercises in consciousness, you will feel the power of being able to release it. But at the same time, you don't have to beat yourself up. I have never seen an enlightened being that didn't have anger, that didn't fall into the pits of darkness once in a while. And so it's really okay. Our problem is that we think it's who we are and that we're stuck with it. Whereas an enlightened being would say, whew, that's it. You had your 30 seconds, that's it, goodbye.